Entry 36, Saturday, June 20th, 1964. It's about a half a page, and this one primarily deals with Mr. McCloy. Tell us a little bit about your interactions with him here.
Well, it was a Saturday, and I was at the office. I note for the record, Rankin had told me that McCloy was going to be in town and that he might call me. And the purpose of his call was to ask whether I had any materials to provide to him, and I said that I did have some, and he volunteered that he would come to the office to get those documents. So we spent some 45 minutes together while copies were being made of various drafts, presumably including the drafts that I had sent the Chief Justice the day before. He was quick to respond to some of the issues that I mentioned. I would try to give him some updating about the issue in presidential protection, on which he had established such a firm position in earlier meetings, and they were positions that were opposed by the Chief Justice. So I told him where that problem stood at the moment, and indicated that, in my words, there was a need for the Commission to at least consider the issue of transferring. And then I also mentioned issues in areas 3, that the Liebler-Jenner area, and in area 5, the Ruby area. I mentioned some of the reorganization we had done with the proposed chapters 2 and 3, and he really didn't express any interest about any of these matters. What he was interested in was knowing why Marina Oswald had not been cross-examined more vigorously, why former Mayor Mrs. Cabell had not been deposed. And so I told him about some of the recent testimony of Marina Oswald, and mentioned some of the other investigations, including Bernard Weissman's scheduled appearance, and so forth and so on. So as to the issues he was concerned with, the mayor and Mrs. Cabell apparently were going out of town into Europe. I think we may have discussed this earlier, and he was interested only in making certain that the Commission accommodated the mayor's travel schedule in terms of when he would appear before the Commission. He didn't, I don't think, have much of an interest in many of these subjects. But in any event, I answered the questions and hoped to have a more substantive conversation with him. But obviously, he had limited time, and so this was about the extent of it.
I come away with mixed feelings towards Mr. McCloy here, because in one respect he seems very demanding of you, and often in this entry and others sort of criticizes that not more has been done, despite the fact that you're clearly working very hard. But at the same time, his level of engagement is right up there. Well, maybe not attending all the meetings, but as far as his interest in certain topics is up there close to where the Chief Justice was with his dedication to the process. Would you say that of all the members beyond the Chief Justice, Mr. McCloy was the most engaged?
I think he was in terms of what I perceived, because as we've related, I met him at least once, if not twice, in the Deputy Attorney General's office. And then we had some meetings that we've discussed, and where he and the Chief Justice articulated their differing views in front of several of us from the staff. I think Congressman Ford was very actively engaged and had people assisting him in understanding the materials. And in that regard, Mr. McCloy, at about this time, had brought an associate in his firm to become familiar with what was coming from the Commission, and to help McCloy evaluate the substance and of the material and the quality of the writing, and any contributions of that kind from someone Mr. McCloy had employed for that purpose, I think was valuable for us. The more qualified people, independent of the staff, taking a fresh look at what we were doing was very valuable, and to some extent we could have benefited from much more of that from the Commission or from their aides. But in terms of appearances and taking positions in front of the staff, certainly McCloy was certainly much more visible to me than any of the other members, with the exception of the Chief Justice.